Hi everyone, we're going to be doing a new series of videos all about helping children with their emotions, particularly their emotions that relate to after school and all of the things that come with that. Over the next few videos, we're going to be using one game per video of just different things you might like to try. But in this video, we're going to do a bit of an introduction to ourselves and answer a few questions that we had from Instagram. So I'm Emma. I run Everyday Play Ideas. My passion is all things children's behaviour and well-being. So we thought this would be kind of a good match, as you're so great with the games, aren't you?
Oh, thanks. Well, so I'm Liz and I'm from Playful Learning Games. And basically, I promote play-based learning for children from Key Stage 2 onwards, because lots is done to do with play and play-based learning for early years and Key Stage 1. But I feel it gets pushed aside a little bit once we get into Key Stage 2. So 6 to 11-year-olds, they're kind of where I lie in terms of my resources. So yeah, we thought it would be a perfect match to link up and think of how we can use play to help deal with those tricky emotions that we get in school and at home as well.
Definitely. It's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So we've had a few questions come in, like you said, haven't we?
Mm.
And we're going to do our best to kind of answer them, give some bits of advice. And if you then continue to watch the series that we're going to post up, there'll hopefully be some practical games for you to use, whether it's at home for after school times or before school times, or whether you're a teacher or a teaching assistant looking for ways to help children manage their emotions and behaviours after a difficult playtime at school, or in after school clubs when they're burnt out and they've had enough,
Yeah,
or any times really. So we're aiming for this to help parents and teachers.
definitely.
So Emma, we've had a question about morning emotions. So lots of emotions in the morning, children not wanting to go to school, probably a little bit reluctant to get ready, all those sorts of
Yeah,
things. So I think it's completely normal because
yeah,
we
definitely.
have that as well with our children.
It's so normal. It's something that is probably happening in all different houses up and down the country, but you don't get to see what's happening in somebody else's house. So sometimes it can feel quite isolating for you as a parent and for your child too. And it's a really tricky thing. There's kind of no one size fits all answer because it could be that there's something going on, or it could just be a really normal thing. The first thing I always like to think about with anything with parenting, but especially with something like this, is how would we feel in their situation? Like, if you're really honest, when you woke up this morning, did you jump out of bed, you know, desperate to get to work? Perhaps not. So it's not unusual that our children would feel a bit reluctant about going. Um, but it is worth having a conversation with your child and with staff in the setting, teachers at the school as well, because it might be that there's something going on. And sometimes those can be really tiny to us, tiny things. Oh, well, yesterday at lunchtime, somebody took the hoop I was playing with and they said I snatched it and they told a teacher. And to a child, this escalates. And the next day, they're not going to want to go because they're worried about being in trouble or they're worried about not being liked or all of these other things. So it's taking that seriously and talking it through with the child, but it's also looking at, is this happening every day, and is there a reason? Is it more than just a little bit of worry? Is there something that could be done in school? Is there a change that could be made by the way they go in? So I think the one thing I would say to parents is, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to chat. Obviously, mornings are a really busy time for teachers welcoming children in, but ask if you can just chat with them after school and say, look, my child is struggling to come in, and they might say, oh yeah, we've noticed that, but actually within about 5 minutes they're getting on and they're fine, or there might be more to it. But I think as a parent and a teacher, it's absolutely okay to ask, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think, and sometimes my daughter can be reluctant to go to school, and I've kind of tried to find out if there's anything particular wrong. And it's there isn't. So there's not always necessarily, like you say, something majorly wrong. It might just be that my daughter's got into a bit of a habit of saying it. I know when she goes in, she's fine. She doesn't struggle to go in once we're at the gate, but sometimes she just is reluctant to get dressed in the morning.
Yeah.
And I've done things like change routine up a little bit in the morning. I'm not a morning person by any means, so I'm not very good in the mornings. But I've done things like rather than getting her to get up and get dressed straight away, try and like play a 5 minute game or something like that with her, or just get some Lego and say, oh, we did started this Lego yesterday. I'll put the 5 minute timer on and we'll do a bit of Lego first, because then she's kind of up out of bed and then we don't
Yeah,
have that struggle of getting her out. So sometimes it's just I've tried personally just changing the routine of myself in the morning. And I'm a bit of a last minute getter upper as well. So then I've sort of tried to get up earlier so it's
yeah,
not so rushed. Sometimes it's just things like that. And it's life, isn't
yeah.
it? You're all
And
rushed, stressed, and doing things. And it's easy to say change it, but actually sometimes just getting up 10 minutes earlier can make a massive difference, can't
yeah.
it?
And obviously, it's going to be different for everybody, but actually, if you can get yourself ready as a parent so that all you've got to do, I say all, but all
Yeah,
you've got
yeah.
to do is get ready with your child. That whole doing the Lego and that parallel play sitting next to each other, actually, that's a really good chance for them to say anything that might be bothering them. Or,
Yeah.
like you say, if it is more of a habit, it's just giving them a strategy to calm down. Like play is a really good way of just, and we're going to talk about that a lot, but it's just a good way of letting them let those feelings out.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Okay, fantastic. Um, so then we've got some questions, quite a few actually, about after school.
Yeah.
So there were children being grumpy or angry after school, kind of stomping upstairs, wanting to be on their own, but then that affects the family situation. Some people saying there's a lot of meltdowns after school, or teachers saying they behave beautifully at school and then the behavior is completely different after school. So yeah, lots of after school stuff. So what sort of reasons behind that?
I mean,
Loads.
again, it is not uncommon. It's completely normal. In fact, if a parent said to me, "Oh yeah, they always come home from school and they're fine," I'd be like, "Oh wow!" Like I'd be
Yeah.
quite
What are
surprised
they
because
doing?
I think if you are a parent who has only ever, your only experience of school is when you went to school yourself, it's a very different environment now, and it's also quite different to see it as an adult to how you would have seen
Yeah.
it as a child. And the school day is full on.
Mhm.
It is really full on. From the moment they go in, they are learning, they're socializing, they're listening, they're even a basic thing like sitting still. They're sitting at the table or they're sitting on the carpet with their legs crossed. And I mean, some teachers do amazing jobs at adapting their classroom so it isn't that way. But if you think about the amount of energy that goes into that, if you're sitting on the carpet with friends and the teacher's saying, listen to this, if
Mhm.
I was to say to you now, don't blink, all of your energy goes into keeping your eyes open. And then how much energy goes into your learning? Like there's so much coming at them all day long.
Mhm.
And I often talk about it being like a bottle of Coke that, they're this bottle and it gets shook up all day and it's fizzier and fizzier and fizzier, but they can't let it out because they're at school. And as much as they might love school, it's not the same as being at home with you in their safe place. So
Mhm.
they're keeping it in all day. When they come home, it's just a release. And it doesn't mean that they hate you or they don't like home. It's quite the opposite. It means they know they're safe to behave in this way, that you're still going to love them. But it's hard, isn't it?
Really
It's a
hard.
really hard thing to know that potentially that's what you're going to get after school. And
Mhm.
I always say, and it sounds terrible, but I feel like my daughter's currently in reception and they almost get the best of her. Like that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But they get those hours where she's fed and she's not too tired and she's having fun with her friends. And then I get the child that comes out that's hot and sweaty and sticky from their classroom and tired and overstimulated and just has all these things going on. And it's my job to help her with that whilst also not getting triggered myself. It is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah, it is. And I think my daughter actually said it. She's in year 2, so we're kind of key stage 1 at the moment, aren't we, Bubble? But she said something to me a while ago, and she said, "Oh, somebody was struggling at school, mummy, today, and was finding it really difficult to do what the teacher asked." And she said, "I turned around and said to them, just keep all your sillies in until you get home."
Oh,
But that's what children are trying to do all the time.
yeah,
They're trying to keep their sillies in. And it's not because they can't be silly at school.
no,
School's not this place where they can't be. But like you say, there is so much that goes on. And even from thinking about how do I ask to go to the toilet? At home, they just go to the toilet if they
yeah,
need it. At school, they've got to follow a process to ask. And, it's all those things. And there's so many like you say, that we don't even realize as adults. There's so many things that are new to them on a daily basis that are going on. They're in a class with lots of children, with one or two adults.
Yeah,
Uh, and there's so much to process for them that, yeah, it's only kind of natural, really, that they do go, do have the meltdowns after school or do find it difficult. And it's
yeah.
really hard as parents because we're just like, we haven't seen you all day. And now we just feel like we're grumpy with you because you're grumpy with me. But I
Whilst,
think it's a natural thing. And that's what I found really nice, having heard other people and like you saying that, because you do just think it's you and that you're doing something wrong after school. And when I heard that it was them actually because they feel safe, they're doing that. Still hard, but it
yeah,
makes you feel better about it, doesn't it?
yeah, definitely. It's still going to be a really tricky thing, but I think it's knowing, even if you can't see somebody else in that situation, that you're not alone with it, and that there are things you can do, and we will talk about that in our, upcoming videos, but
Mm,
that ultimately it is likely to happen, and it's just a really normal human thing to almost be on your best behavior in
mm,
one situation, and then when you're behind closed doors to kind of just let it, like I will sit on my sofa in the evening with a massive blanket and my snacks, and my hair is all like in its curlers.
mm.
I don't look so great. Would I go into work like that? No, I wouldn't. It's a
Mm,
different persona in some ways. And I think that's just what it is with our children. They have their school personality and then their after school personality.
mm. And I think it's about talking to them about what they want to do after school. So my daughter was really reluctant to do any after school clubs for the first couple of years at school. She's only just started to get into wanting to do something after school because school was enough for her. She didn't
Yeah,
need to do anything else where she had to go and follow rules and do
yeah,
something. So I took her lead on that. We tried out a few and it didn't work. Now she really loves one that we do. So we're doing that. But I think it's really useful as they get older, and particularly it's easier with older children to do this, to talk to them about it, not straight after school when they're in that moment,
yeah,
but when they're ready to talk about it, ask them, when you get in after school, what would be your thing that you want to do? Like, think about yourself. What do you want to do when you relax? Like you say, put your hair in rollers and curl up for a blanket, watch some trashy TV or,
yeah,
whatever. But I think it's really useful to ask our children what they want to do. So actually, somebody that said their child stomps upstairs, maybe that's he or she needs some alone time.
yeah,
But actually, it's about planning that in a more relaxed way. Like you come in from school, let's find a safe place for you to go to so that you can do what you want for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we come back as a family together if that's what you want. And I think it's really important to talk to them so that they understand that what they're feeling, but also
yeah,
start learning how to manage that because that's what we have to do as adults, don't we?
yeah.
Um,
And I think you're absolutely right in that by talking to them, we can then understand why they're like it. Because
yeah,
in the example of stomping off upstairs, it's quite easy to feel hurt as a parent. Like,
yeah,
well, I picked them up and they just stormed off. But actually, some children will need to go to a room or whatever and have some quiet time on their own. And another child might need to eat 100 snacks, and someone else might need to do laps around the garden. And
mm,
it's really different. So, actually,
mm,
talking to your child and seeing it from their perspective
mm.
is going to help with kind of having a plan moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, everybody finds relaxes in different ways, don't they? What
Yeah.
I find, my husband goes to the gym to relax. I don't do that at all. I want to sit under a blanket and watch something
Yeah.
on TV. So yeah, and I think, and that's exactly the same for children, isn't it? What we'll feel is relaxing and calming won't necessarily be to them. So it's about adapting what you do and allowing them to tell you, but it's picking the right moment to do that, isn't
Yeah. It's a
it?
minefield.
Yeah. Right. And then finally, we're just going to talk about homework. So somebody has said that this is a 5-year-old. So I could have a big discussion about homework and what I think of it anyway. That's another video. Um, but anyway, this is a 5-year-old who's been learning all day, just wants to play, and the biggest challenge is homework.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I know you said it's a topic for another day, but I do think we can just touch on it really quickly to
Yeah.
say that different schools are going to have different policies on how much they set and what is a realistic expectation. And I think we also have to be realistic with that too, that they have been at school all day and they
Mhm.
are only 5. Like they've been alive for 5 years.
I
That's
know.
nothing. Think about like what you were doing 5 years ago. That's their entire life.
Mm,
So expecting them to, work hard all day and then come home and do some more is a lot.
mm,
However, there are ways we can make that a bit easier.
mm,
I know we often talk about coming home and doing homework, but in our house, actually, with like listening to her read, for example, we do that before school, just
mm,
before we go out the door to almost transition into going to school. And
mm,
again, that's going to depend how your morning works. But in
mm.
our household, reading a reading book after school is, you know, a straight road to a meltdown, and it's
Yeah.
just it's not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial to her learning or to our household environment. So we switch up how we do it. If it's things like, I mean, I don't know what this child's homework is, but
No.
phonics or spellings, perhaps, maybe maths things, they can all be turned into games. And this is something that you have a lot of on your website, isn't it? Of just
Mhm.
different ways to make it more playful for them. Because if they've sat still all day, the chances are they're not going to want to come home and do that. And I think there's a lot of compliance in school. A child will do it because their teachers ask them to. That's
Mm.
not the same as you doing it at home. So it's really normal to kind of experience some backlash with that. So I think it's kind of two things. It's looking at what's realistic and what you can actually get your child to do, and then finding the easiest possible way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with the routine change on when you think about when you do it, because I've heard a lot of people that do it in the morning before school, and like I say, it doesn't work for some people because they don't have enough time or they're having to get ready for work, or but that might be a thing. Rather than trying to do it straight after school, do it then. Maybe try and do it an hour after school if you've got time, once they've had snacks and played, and then but like you say, turn it into a more playful way of doing their homework. I know, again, it depends on the schools and what they do. Some schools you might get a worksheet, but you could still change that up. And I don't think a lot of schools would mind if you say, do you know what, I've done this homework, but I've just done it in a different way.
Yeah.
Then the child's not gonna get penalised for not having written the
No.
answer on the worksheet. So you could take that worksheet and, cut the words up, or do it in a way that works for your child. Do it in a play-based way,
Yeah.
My daughter, is a great example of this for reading. She loves reading, has taken to it really well, but trying to get her to read her school book is a bit of a nightmare, in all honesty, which surprised me because of how much she just loves reading in general. And the only way it works for us is I've turned it into a game. And now when I say to her, well, should we do some reading? She says, can we play the reading game? And that's fine, because it ends up that she probably does more reading than she would if she just sat and did a couple of pages with me. And
Yeah.
it's literally a dice. We'll share it on here one day, but it's
Yeah.
literally a dice and a tally, and you basically take it in turns to roll the dice and read that number of sentences from the book. And then
That's
I'm doing some
lovely.
reading, she is, and the first person to read 20 sentences wins. And
I
suddenly
love that.
she wants to read and she wants to beat me and she wants to read 20 sentences. And then that's reading done. And she
Yeah.
doesn't really understand that it's what her schoolwork should have been,
Yeah.
basically.
And
So it's twisting it around.
I love as well with that it's literally, I guess, a dice, a piece of paper, and a pen. It's not a lot of setup. You're
Yep.
not asking parents to generate a worksheet themselves. It's
No.
just simple, straightforward techniques that make everyone's life easier.
Yeah, and it's not formal. We get down on the floor and play it. We're
Yeah.
both at the same level, and we're both doing some reading, so it's not just her reading as well, and that's really beneficial as well
Yeah.
because she's then understanding what I'm
Of
saying.
course. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just about twisting it round. But we're hopefully in the next few videos going to give lots of different
Yeah.
ways for learning, but also talking about those emotions as well.
It's exciting. I think the next few videos are going to be really good. We're going to have a mix of, sit down games that you can do together, or movement games where you can, if you've got one of those children that needs to move, I mean, most of us do, children
Yeah.
like to move, but we're going to
Mhm.
have games like that, sensory games. So there will be something for everybody, I'm sure.
Definitely. Perfect. Right. Well, I will see you again soon, ready
See
for
you
the
in the
next
next
video.
video.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.